The day I, Alicia, walked across that stage to receive my MBA after 5 long years of late nights, my hands were trembling with pride, and right in front of me sat 5 empty chairs, reserved seats for my husband and my 2 kids. Not a single one of them showed up. They were all at my brother Derek's backyard BBQ on the very same day I had waited half a decade for. Families around me were cheering, waving, taking pictures, and me? I stood in a sea of graduation gowns feeling like the outsider. It's just a ceremony, they said. Just 5 years of being called a neglectful mom because I studied late into the night. Just holidays traded for research papers. Just a promise to be there, broken without even a text of congratulations. I bit my lip, forced a smile, but inside I was on fire. If the people you love most would rather laugh over burgers than honor your hard-earned success, then what does family even mean? Don't call me selfish. I've sacrificed enough. That night, while everyone else tossed caps in the air, I stared at my phone screen. We need to talk. 45 missed calls, and suddenly it wasn't just about the humiliation anymore. Have you ever had your own family dismiss your biggest achievement? If you have, hit like to support everyone still grinding in silence. Drop a comment to share your story. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, because in the next chapter, you'll see how I forced my whole family to finally face the truth. Because right after that ceremony, a poolside accident at Derek's house landed us all in the hospital. And what I said in that waiting room left the entire place frozen. Want to know what happened next? Alicia, the daughter always overlooked. If I tell you about the pain of graduation day, it didn't actually start there. The seeds were planted years earlier, inside my own family. Nathan, my husband, 37, once was my rock. When I first enrolled in the MBA program, he held my hand and said, firm but loving, "Go for it. I'll take care of the family. I'm proud of you." And I believed him. I thought this was the kind of partnership every wife dreams of. In the beginning, he'd even bring me late-night coffee, rub my shoulders, whisper, "You're almost there. Keep going." I thought no matter how tired I was, as long as I had him, I could do it all. But life doesn't keep its promises. Year after year, I saw his eyes shift. That look of encouragement turned into weariness, then into blame. The whispers of support became heavy sighs, and eventually cutting words. "When are you going to be done with this? The kids barely see you. I'm exhausted too." Each word felt like a knife. I tried to explain this sacrifice was for us, for our future, but he didn't want to hear it. All he saw was my empty seat at dinner, my absence at the school plays, the weekends where he had to take the kids alone. The partnership I dreamed of slowly became 2 people co-parenting, checking off chores, living side by side but not together. Meals became silent, dreams went unspoken. The space between us grew colder, and I started to wonder if love itself was slipping away. And it wasn't just him. I felt the distance with my kids, too. Ethan, my 14-year-old, in his rebellious phase, teased me. "Only nerds care about graduation. Who even gives a damn?" I laughed it off, pretending it didn't hurt, but inside I was shattered. He was just parroting teenage bravado, but each word cut deep. I wanted to scream, "I gave up everything so you could have a better future." But instead, I stayed quiet, afraid he wouldn't understand. Sophia, my sweet 11-year-old, was different, sensitive, tearful. More than once I heard her cry, "Mom, why don't you ever come play with me? You're always busy." Every time my heart twisted, I'd hug her and whisper, "Just a little longer, sweetheart. One day soon, I'll have more time." But even I didn't believe my own words. I saw the sadness in her eyes, the reluctant nod. She was trying to believe me, but disappointment was already growing inside her. I told myself, they'll understand one day. When I'm on that stage, when I get promoted, when life is better, they'll be proud. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was trading something irreplaceable, their childhood, our family bond, for a hope that might never come. And then there was Derek, my older brother, the golden child in my parents' eyes ever since we were kids. Derek wasn't just successful in his career. He had this charm, this way of making everyone around him feel entertained and comfortable. He owned his own business, lived in a fancy riverfront house, and had a huge circle of friends. To my parents, he was proof of success, the child who made them proud, and because of that, they never bothered to hide their favoritism. When I was still in school, they constantly skipped my academic competitions. I'll never forget the time I won second place in a statewide math contest. The stage lights were blinding, the applause was deafening, but in the audience, the seats reserved for my parents were empty. They were busy cheering at one of Derek's high school basketball games, a game his team actually lost. But for them, being there for him was what mattered. As we grew older, the gap only widened. They'd fly from California all the way to Derek's city just to help him remodel his kitchen or even house sit while he went on vacation. But when I asked them to watch my kids so I could take a final exam, the answer was always the same. "Sorry, I'm too busy. Maybe next time." Once, I finally gathered the courage to ask my mom outright, "Why do you always put Derek first? What about me?" She sighed, gave me a look that made me feel like I was being difficult, and said, "You're always so serious, always so busy. Being around Derek is just more fun." Those words cut straight through me. Even now, I can't forget them. More fun. Did that mean more deserving of love? And me, because I lived responsibly, because I carried the weight, I was somehow less? The favoritism played out again and again until I could no longer ignore the truth. In this family, I would never be the first choice. No matter how much I carried, sacrificed, or achieved, Derek would always be the one they celebrated. That injustice planted something deep inside me, a constant ache, a sense of being pushed to the sidelines, a shadow fading next to the family's shining star. Over the years, it grew into a crack in my heart that could never truly be sealed. As time went on, the favoritism only became more obvious. Derek barely had to ask, and my parents would rush to his side. Meanwhile, I was juggling work, school, and motherhood, and still, I was never the priority. They praised Derek as the successful businessman, the son any parent would be lucky to have. And me? In their eyes, I was just the busy, dry, overly serious daughter who didn't know how to enjoy life. I'll never forget overhearing my dad once say to a family friend, "Alicia's smart, sure, but she's too rigid. Derek is the one who really makes us proud." Those words burned like salt in an open wound. I had poured myself into everything I did, But not once, did I ever see pride in their eyes when they looked at me. All of it, the coldness from Nathan, the thoughtless words from my children, and my parents' blatant favoritism, slowly carved out a massive fracture inside me. The day that was stolen from me, my family chose a BBQ over my graduation. Just a few weeks before my graduation, the day I had pictured in my mind for years, Derek called me. His voice was full of excitement. Alicia, I'm throwing a huge BBQ next week at my place. I just built a new outdoor kitchen and pool. The kids are going to love it. You all have to come. I froze for a moment, my heart skipping a beat. The day he was talking about was the same day as my graduation. I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. Derek, that's my graduation day. I've told everyone about it months ago. Can't you push the BBQ to another week? There was silence on the other end before he let out a short laugh, his tone dripping with dismissal. It's just a ceremony. You already graduated college. This is just another piece of paper. I've got nearly 30 guests coming, business partners too. I can't move it. But hey, swing by after you're done. Don't make it a big deal. I went numb. Just a ceremony? 5 years of trading my time, health, and family for this degree. And to my brother, it was nothing more than a sheet of paper. Desperate, I called my mom, hoping she would stand by me, at least this once. But her response hit me like a punch in the chest. Oh, wow, it really does land on the same day. But sweetie, Aunt Susan and Uncle Joe are flying in from Florida. It's been so long since the whole family's been together. And you know your dad loves Derek's BBQs. We'll make it up to you. We'll take you out to dinner later to celebrate. I started shaking with anger. Mom, this is the day I've waited 5 years for. I need the family there, just this once. She sighed. Alicia, don't be selfish. A graduation ceremony isn't as important as a family gathering. Plus, the kids will have more fun at the BBQ. I hung up, my hand trembling. Once again, even my parents had chosen Derek over me. I turned to Nathan, pouring out my frustration, hoping he would be the one person I could lean on. He listened quietly, patted my shoulder, and said, Don't worry. No matter what, the kids and I will be there with you. I promise. For a moment, that promise calmed me, but only days later, the truth began to unravel. Ethan came running up, eyes shining with excitement. Mom, I heard Uncle Derek has a new pool with a water slide. I have to go. Sophia chimed in, pleading, Mom, Jasmine, my friend, is going to be there. I don't want to miss it. I tried to explain gently, This is the most important day of my life. I need you both there to be proud with me. But Ethan groaned. It's just a graduation. Sitting for hours while they call names is so boring. Why should we waste our time? His words cut me to the core. I turned to Nathan, praying he'd back me up. But instead, he said quietly, Look, the kids have a point. The ceremony will be long and dull. How about I take them to Derek's BBQ and I'll come to your graduation myself? Then we can all meet up for dinner afterward. You'll still have support and the kids will be happy. I stared at him, fury rising in my chest. Do you hear yourself? This isn't a business deal we're negotiating. This is the day I sacrificed 5 years of my life for. I need my family with me, not just a dinner later. He avoided my eyes, his voice shrinking. You're blowing this out of proportion, Alicia. It's just a ceremony. Just a ceremony. The same words Derek and my mother had used. In that moment, I felt completely alone. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard laughter from the living room. Nathan and the kids joking excitedly about games they'd play at the BBQ. I buried my face in the pillow, tears soaking the fabric. What had I done wrong? Why was my effort seen as nothing but a burden? I thought about every morning I woke early to cook, worked 10-hour shifts, and then rushed to class. Every weekend spent locked away writing papers while Nathan took the kids out. I thought about Sophia's sad eyes, Ethan's complaints, Nathan's sighs. I had endured it all because I believed one day they would understand. One day they would be proud. But now that hope was shattering. Still, I clung to one last thread. I looked Nathan in the eyes and said, "Promise me, no matter what, I need you and the kids there. I don't want flowers or gifts, just their faces in the crowd." He hesitated, then nodded. "I promise." But deep down, I knew that promise was hollow. The excitement in his voice when he talked about the BBQ, the kids' glowing faces, when they mentioned the pool, it all felt like an omen. As graduation day crept closer, I felt myself being pushed further to the sidelines of my own family. Silent dinners, group text buzzing about BBQ plans, and me, the one person this day was supposed to be about, left out completely. And then, just as I feared, the morning of my graduation came. I woke up to a silent house. Nathan and the kids were already gone. On the kitchen table sat a scrap of paper, scribbled hastily. Took the kids to Derek's to help set up. We'll try to make it back in time for the ceremony. Congrats. Nathan. The day I had waited 5 years for began with their absence. Graduation day in empty seats, and the phone call that shook me. The morning of my graduation, I woke up early, my heart pounding with both excitement and fear. I wanted to believe Nathan's promise that he and the kids would be there, even if they just sat quietly in the crowd. But the house was unusually silent. No clatter of pots in the kitchen, no bickering from the kids, no Nathan rushing around, telling everyone to get ready. On the table, I found a hastily scribbled note. Took the kids to Derek's to help set up. We'll try to make it back in time for the ceremony. Congrats. Nathan. I read it over and over, my hands trembling. Try to make it back. That meant they had chosen the BBQ. My most important day had already begun in bitter absence. I put on my graduation gown, adjusted the cap, and looked at myself in the mirror. A forced smile on my face, but red-rimmed eyes from a sleepless night. I whispered to myself, "You still have to go, even if it's alone." At the auditorium, I blended into the crowd of black gowns, surrounded by laughter, cheers, and camera flashes. Friends and colleagues were embraced with flowers, their families waving posters and shouting their names as they crossed the stage. Me? I had 5 empty seats. When the announcer called my name, Alicia Marie Williams, Master of Business Administration with distinction. I walked across the stage, head held high, lips pressed tight. I shook hands with the dean and accepted my diploma. Applause filled the hall, but none of it was for me. No warm gaze from Nathan. No "Mom," shouted by Sophia. No wave from Ethan. I sat back down, my heart hollow. 5 years of sacrifice, rewarded with silence. Halfway through the ceremony, As the keynote speaker's voice echoed through the hall, my phone buzzed in my pocket over and over. I sneaked a glance. 45 missed calls from Nathan. A final text glared at me. Emergency. Ethan had an accident at the pool, taking him to the hospital. Call back now. I froze. Every sound around me vanished. My mind filled only with one image: my son, who had once mocked my dedication, now lying in pain. Without hesitation, I bolted up from my seat, rushing out of the auditorium, ignoring the startled looks of everyone around me. The hospital, where I forced my family to face the bitter truth. I sped toward Memorial Hospital, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. On the seat beside me, my graduation gown and diploma lay crumpled, worthless. When I arrived, I rushed straight into the emergency room. The sight that greeted me froze me in place. Ethan lay on the bed, his arms strapped in a temporary splint, his face twisted in pain, yet trying to be brave. Surrounding him were all the familiar faces: Nathan, Sophia, my parents, and Derek. They stood close together, chatting in hushed tones, each with a cup of coffee from the hospital cafeteria in hand. They were all here for a broken arm. But just hours earlier, when I stood on stage receiving the degree I had sacrificed 5 years for, 5 chairs remained cold and empty. I swallowed the lump in my throat and rushed to Ethan's side. His eyes lit up when he saw me, red and wet with tears. "Mom, you're here. It hurts so bad, but I'll be okay." I squeezed his hand tightly, whispered into his ear, "I'm here now. Everything's going to be fine." When the doctor left, the air in the room grew heavy. I looked around at each of them. Silence. Only the steady beep of the monitor filled the space. I couldn't hold it in any longer. My voice shook, but anger burned underneath. Isn't this wonderful? The whole family gathered together. Yet when I stood on that stage today, after 5 years of sacrifice, where were you? Around Derek's pool, at his barbecue. My father frowned, his voice soft, trying to calm me. "Alicia, this isn't the right time. Your son needs peace." I let out a bitter laugh, tears streaking down my cheeks. "When is the right time, Dad? When I'm forgotten again? For years, Derek has always come first. I've always been the afterthought. Even on the one day I needed you most, you still chose him." Nathan stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder, his voice low. "Alicia, don't make a scene here. Think of Ethan." I spun toward him, my chest splitting apart. "Have you ever thought of me, Nathan? For 5 years, I've carried this family, juggled work, school, and motherhood. And today, just today, I asked for you and the kids to be there, but you left me alone. You chose a barbecue, the easy way out, instead of standing beside your wife." No one answered. My mother stared at the floor. Derek crossed his arms, annoyed. Sophia shrank into the corner. Nathan hung his head. The room thickened with silence, broken only by my sobs. Do you even know how long I waited for that moment? 5 years of sleepless nights, skipped dinners, missed holidays. I thought that for one day, just one day, you'd finally look at me with pride. But all I got was 5 empty chairs. I collapsed against Ethan, kissing his forehead. I didn't want him to hear it all, but the dam inside me had burst. Ethan winced, tugging at my hand. "Don't be sad, Mom. I'm sorry. I wanted to go to the party, but now I wish I'd been at your graduation instead." Those simple words pierced me deeper than anything. I inhaled sharply, forcing the rage back down, and slipped back into my role as his mother. Wiping my tears, I smiled at him. "It's okay, sweetheart. What matters is you're safe. I'll be here with you." I helped the nurse adjust his pillows, coaxed Sophia to sit closer to her brother, and quietly listened as the doctor explained his treatment plan. In that moment, I pushed my emotions aside. My son needed calm, not another war. But inside, the cracks carved deeper. When Ethan finally drifted to sleep under the painkillers, I stepped into the hallway. My mother followed, whispering, "Alicia, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it meant that much to you." I turned, my voice hoarse but steady. "I told you so many times, Mom, but you never listened. To you, Derek has always mattered more. Today was just the final proof." She said nothing. Derek avoided my eyes, pretending to check his phone. Nathan lingered by the door, guilt etched across his face, but too afraid to speak. I saw the regret in his eyes, but regret too late does nothing to erase the pain. That night, after Ethan's arm was set in a cast and he was moved to a regular room, I sat by his bed, but my mind wandered elsewhere. I thought about the graduation, the empty chairs, the cold stares of my family. I knew from that moment nothing would ever be the same again. I could forgive for Ethan's sake because he needed both his parents. But forget the betrayal of this day? That was impossible. And when we finally went home, I made Nathan sit down and listen, really listen, to everything I had swallowed for 5 long years. That conversation would change our marriage forever. A week apart, when I learned to set boundaries for myself. After coming back from the hospital, the familiar house suddenly felt suffocating. I walked into the kitchen and saw Nathan fumbling with the dishes, as if a few mechanical chores could magically return everything to normal. But for me, nothing was normal anymore. I looked at him, and each word that came out was heavy as stone. "Nathan, I feel betrayed. You broke your promise. You left me standing alone on the most important day of my life." He froze, his eyes reddening, stammering vague apologies. But silence and a few, "I didn't mean to," could never mend the gaping wound tearing me apart inside. For the first time in 12 years of marriage, I dared to say something even I had never imagined. "I need time. I'll stay at a hotel for a week. I need space to rethink everything." The words cut into my own chest like a blade. But I knew if I didn't set boundaries now, I would forever be disregarded, forever a shadow in my own family. I quietly packed a small suitcase, throwing in a few clothes and my laptop. The house was so quiet that the sound of the suitcase wheels against the tiles seemed deafening. I walked out without looking back. Outside, the city night stretched endlessly, but strangely enough, I could breathe easier. I drove to the small hotel I had once booked for my parents when they came to visit. This time, the room was mine. I looked around at the four walls, set down my suitcase, and whispered to myself, "This isn't running away. This is the only way to save myself." In that moment, I realized that sometimes, in order to save a relationship, you must first save yourself. And that was exactly what I intended to do. The first night at the hotel was so quiet, I could hear my own heartbeat. The room felt empty, no laughter from the kids, no sound of Nathan's footsteps in the kitchen. I sat alone by the window, watching the city lights flicker, and the tears just kept falling. But they weren't only tears of sorrow, they were tears of release. For the first time in years, I was in a space that belonged only to me. No judgment, no demands, no need to please anyone. The next morning, I began piecing my life back together. I told myself, this isn't just a pause, it's a chance to restart. I visited Ethan at the hospital, bringing him a few comic books to help pass the long hours. The way his eyes lit up reminded me that no matter how exhausted I felt, I still wanted to show up for my children in the most positive way possible. At noon, I met Sophia for lunch at her school. She chattered away about classes and friends, her eyes sparkling, just like mine once did when I used to crave my parents' attention. I realized then that although I couldn't reclaim the years I had lost, I still had the chance to be the anchor my children needed. That quiet afternoon at the hotel, I opened my laptop, polished my resume, and finally submitted my application for the senior analyst position, a role I knew I was qualified for. The moment I hit send, my heart raced, not out of fear but out of faith. I no longer needed validation from others. I would create my own worth. During that week, my phone rang constantly. My mother left long, remorseful voicemails. I'm sorry, Alicia. I was wrong to dismiss you. I didn't realize how much it mattered. Derek sent a huge bouquet with a card. I was selfish. I'm sorry. And Nathan, he called every night. At first, his words were clumsy excuses, but later, they turned into desperation. I know I betrayed you. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want the chance to make things right. I listened, but I didn't reply. Words weren't enough anymore. I needed actions. That single week away was short, but it was enough for me to reflect on everything. I realized that for years, I had been trying to prove my worth through the approval of others. My parents, my brother, my husband, even my children. And the result? I was drained, dismissed, abandoned. I understood then. My worth doesn't lie in their eyes. It lies in my ability to respect myself. I wrote in my journal, from now on, I will set boundaries. I won't let anyone belittle my efforts again. And if they want to remain in my life, they'll have to learn respect. But the question remained, would these efforts be enough to save a fractured marriage? Or was this simply the start of a new chapter, one where I would walk forward stronger and alone if I had to? A heated conversation. When I stopped choosing silence, I got home a little after 10. The kitchen's soft light, the stale mix of dish soap and cold coffee. Everything felt as flat and distant as the space between Nathan and me. He leaned against the sink, clutching a mug with both hands, eyes hesitant like a man guilty and unsure where to begin. I set my bag on a chair, kept my coat on. We need to talk, I said, my voice raspy from a day of swallowed tears. Nathan nodded slightly. I know you're mad. Mad? I gave a short, bitter laugh. I stood on that stage alone, in front of 5 empty seats with our family's names on them. I'm not just mad, I feel betrayed. He dropped his gaze, rolling the mug as if it could anchor him. I thought the kids would be miserable sitting through 3 hours. I planned to get them back in time. Since when does plan to equal a promise? I cut in. You promised to be there. Then you left a note saying you'd try. Nathan, That's not partnership. That's retreat. He exhaled hard, frustration audible. Alicia, I'm tired too. For 5 years, I've handled the house, the pickups, the schedules around your classes. I, I felt shut out. I met his eyes, and I was shut out of my own day. You're tired after 3 years of shouldering chores? I did it for 10. I studied at night, worked by day, still cooked, did laundry, showed up to parent-teacher meetings when I could. No one made you choose a BBQ over me. That was your choice. He went quiet, then spoke softly. I was scared. Scared that once you had the degree, you'd outpace me and I'd be left behind. That you wouldn't need me. I blinked. So you punished me with your absence because you felt inferior? I didn't mean to punish you, he blurted. I just avoided it. Avoided what? Watching me walk that stage without you there? I lowered my voice, every word dropping like stone. Nathan, love isn't a scoreboard. It's standing beside each other, even when the other person shines. His knuckles whitened around the mug. I'm sorry. Sorry is cheap tonight. I pulled out a chair and sat across from him. Let's deal in truth, not soothing words. I'm setting boundaries. Either you understand and respect them, or we end this. He looked up, startled. Are you talking about divorce? I'm talking about respect, I said, strangely calm. Without it, everything else collapses. Silence soaked the room. I went on, like a door finally unsticking after 5 long years. First, my milestone days aren't negotiable. No BBQs, no the kids will be bored to override them. If it's on the calendar, it's a real priority, not a will come if we can. Second, housework and parenting belong to both of us, not helping me. We split it. We write it down. We sign it. No more lip service. Third, when I say this hurts, you don't smirk or call me dramatic. You listen. You own your choices, the way I owned mine when I chose to go back to school. Fourth, with my parents and Derek, you don't play neutral by staying silent. Silence in the face of unfairness is complicity. When they diminish me, you say no first. I won't keep defending myself alone. Nathan stared like he was seeing a different version of his wife. I I can do that. I will. Don't promise, do. I slid a paper across the table, something I drafted at the hotel. A chore split, the kids' schedule, weekly check-ins. This is the plan. We treat it like a contract. If it fails, I leave. No drama, no blame, just an ending. He inhaled, skimmed it, and nodded. Okay, I'll sign. We both signed. My hand still shook, but not from despair, from the steadiness of finally protecting myself inside this marriage. Why? Nathan asked quietly. Didn't you tell me sooner, before it got this bad? I gave a tired smile. I did. But when women speak in signals, cold dinners, dark circles, it's fine. Men often don't hear it. So tonight I used black and white. He sank into the chair, palm to his forehead. I left you alone, even while you were fighting for our family. Good, you named it. I stood, poured water, set the glass in front of him. Now comes the action. He nodded, hesitant. I called the restaurant. I rebooked. Not to make up for that day, nothing can, but to apologize publicly. Just us. You don't have to smile through it. Say what you want. I'll listen. I looked out the window. I don't need a guilt dinner. I need a husband who says no to the wrong thing, even when it's more fun. When Derek invites you next time, what will you say? I'll say, no, my wife has something that day, and it matters. For the first time that night, his words carried weight. Good. One more thing. The kids. I won't let them learn fun first over respect first. We're going to talk to them, not scold, not preach, so they understand consequences. Nathan swallowed. Ethan told me he wishes he'd been at your ceremony. My throat tightened. Regret is an expensive lesson, but taught well, it becomes a foundation. He looked at me for a long time. Alicia, I love you. I don't say it well, and I've shown it worse. But I love you. I want to relearn how to stand beside you, not behind you, not against you, beside you. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. Love is a verb. We'll see how you conjugate it. A hush settled over the kitchen. I pulled my diploma, still in its stiff folder, from my bag and set it on the table. Look closely, I said. It's not a piece of paper. It's 5 years of my youth. It's the nights I fell asleep on a desk. It's every time our kids asked, "Where's Mom?" It's the price I paid, alone. Nathan's hand grazed the edge of the diploma folder, almost reverent, as if touching my wound itself. I called it the wrong thing, he whispered. From now on, I'll call it by its right name. I turned away, rinsed his mug. Warm water slid over my hands, steadying my pulse. Tomorrow I'm going back to the hotel. One more week, not to punish you. To decide on what terms I'll stay in this marriage. In that time, you follow the plan. You speak with my parents about what happened, and you talk to Derek. Nathan's eyes widened. Talk, how? Adult to adult, I said. You tell him his events will never again outweigh my milestones, that you, as my husband, will refuse if they clash, no hedging. He nodded slowly, weighing old fear against new resolve. I'll do it. I picked up my keys. I'm leaving now. Ethan needs rest. Sophia, too. You hold them for me tonight. Tell them Mom isn't abandoning them. She's just finding quiet so she can come back whole. He rose, stepped closer, but stopped short, leaving safe space between us. Can I hold you? Just once? I met his gaze, then shook my head. When your actions can hold me first. He swallowed his apology, bowing slightly. All right. At the door, I paused. Nathan. Yeah. If I come back next week and nothing has changed, I'll leave. No tears, no shouting, just me, carrying my dignity. His voice was rough. I understand, and I won't let you walk away. I stepped outside. The Seattle night was cold but crisp. In the driver's seat, I leaned back, palm over my chest. For the first time in a long while, I heard my heartbeat steady, firm, not begging for scraps of recognition. 3 days later, the phone rang. Nathan's name. I hesitated, then answered. I did it, he said simply. I met your parents. I told them straight about the BBQ. They apologized. I met Derek. I spoke harder than I thought I could. And tonight, I talked with the kids about respect. Ethan cried. I said nothing, letting silence give weight to his words. One more thing, Nathan added, voice trembling but firm. I swapped shifts, booked a weekly cleaning service, and wrote to the school for the kids' performance schedules. I want to be the one reminding you to go to your events, not pulling you away. I looked out at the hotel window, rain streaking down like pencil marks on glass. Good, I said quietly. Keep going. I will, he replied. Not for a week, always. I hung up, my heart caught between hope and caution. I wasn't here for promises anymore. I was here for proof. I turned back to the desk, opened my laptop, and finished my application for senior analyst. The cursor blinked over, submit. I clicked. A soft ding confirmed it. Almost immediately, another notification lit up. Derek, next week I want a dinner just for you. No pool, no distractions. Only a proper apology. Will you accept? I exhaled, lips curling into a faint smile. The road back wasn't straight, but maybe, just maybe, someone was finally clearing the obstacles. Positive turning point. As time passed, the wounds inside me didn't fade because I forgot them, but because I finally stitched them up with my own strength. I stepped into a new chapter of life, one where, for the first time, I no longer felt like a shadow in my own family, but a whole independent person with my own worth. 3 weeks after I sent in my application, the good news arrived. That morning at work, I opened my email and saw the subject line. Congratulations, promotion to senior analyst. My heart pounded. My eyes blurred with tears. After 5 years of night classes, full-time work, and raising kids, it had finally paid off. Senior analyst wasn't just a new title. It was proof I was capable and resilient enough to claim my place. With the salary bump, I decided to hire a regular housekeeper. It eased the daily grind and gave me more time with the kids. For the first time, I didn't feel trapped in a tug of war between work and home. Nathan seemed to notice the change in me too. The complaints that once came so easily were replaced by small, thoughtful gestures. One evening, he said, out of the blue, I watched the graduation video the school sent. You looked incredible, Alicia. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I stayed quiet for a long time. The hurt hadn't fully healed, but at least he was learning to honor what I do. Ethan and Sophia changed as well. Maybe seeing me push through and now get promoted made them see me differently. One night, Ethan, the same boy who once teased me for being a nerd, knocked on my door and said softly, Mom, I think you're really amazing. I want to achieve something someday that makes people proud, too. I pulled him into a hug, feeling a piece of our lost connection fall back into place. And Sophia started trotting after me, chirping, Mom, are you free today? I want you to come buy craft supplies with me. Those simple requests told me the truth. All the painful sacrifice had planted seeds in them of growth, respect, and love. A month later, something I never expected happened. Derek, my brother, who had suffocated me for years under our parents' favoritism, called with a steady, sincere voice. Alicia, I want to throw a graduation party for you. This time, the whole family will be there. Will you let me? I hesitated for a long time. Part of me wanted to refuse, to say it was too late. But in the end, I said yes. Not because I forgive easily, but because sometimes a small step can open the door to a bigger change. He hosted it in his backyard. For the first time in years, the family gathered, and the focus was me. My parents walked over and handed me a framed photo. Me in my cap and gown, smiling brightly on stage. My mother's voice trembled. We're sorry we weren't there on your day. This is how we want to keep that memory now, even if it's late. Holding that photo, I felt something I couldn't quite name. The scars were still there, not easily healed, but at least this moment proved they finally saw me. Not as the serious, hard-to-please daughter, but as Alicia, the woman who fought relentlessly to stand on that stage. That night, as the lights dimmed, I stood alone at the edge of the yard and exhaled. Life may never be fair, but I've learned this. True worth doesn't come from instant approval. It comes from defending yourself patiently and firmly until others have no choice but to recognize it. And in that moment, I knew I was no longer the woman abandoned on her graduation day. I had become the author of my own story, a new journey, learning to balance. After the graduation party, I came home with a completely different mindset. I was no longer the woman carrying invisible wounds. I was learning to stand firmly as an independent individual, a mother, a professional, and a woman who had faced loss, yet found her own way to heal. At work, my new role as senior analyst drew me into bigger projects and heavier responsibilities. But unlike before, I no longer scrambled between office and home. I created balance. I hired a part-time housekeeper, and I built a personal schedule, clear hours for work, and sacred hours just for my children. I refused to fall back into the endless cycle of unconditional sacrifice. The surprising part was this: once I set boundaries, others began respecting me more. Nathan, instead of grumbling, took on more at home. One evening, when I worked late, he sent me a photo of dinner he and the kids had prepared, with the note, "We miss you, but we want you to focus without worry." That moment brought tears to my eyes and warmth to my chest. Change, I realized, didn't come from pleasing everyone. It came from daring to say no and standing firm in my values. With Ethan, I chose openness. One night, while he struggled with math, I told him about my own long nights of study and work, leading up to my degree. He was quiet for a long while, then whispered, "Mom, I didn't know it was that hard. I'm sorry I made fun of you before." I hugged him tightly, feeling the invisible wall between us finally begin to crumble. With Sophia, weekends became hours, crafts, painting, or simple walks in the park. Her laughter in the afternoon sun reminded me, children don't need a perfect mother. They just need a mother who is truly there. Even my parents and Derek began to change. Though the past couldn't be erased, their calls, dinner invitations, and the fact that my graduation photo now hung in their living room proved they were learning to acknowledge me. I no longer craved their approval, but at least I could now sit with them at the same table without choking back tears. I also learned that forgiveness isn't erasing the past. It's accepting it as part of the journey while no longer letting it control my present. I forgave, but I also set clear lines. If I was ever dismissed again, I would not stay silent. One afternoon, looking in the mirror, I saw an Alicia transformed, not the trembling woman abandoned at her own graduation, but someone strong, confident, and calm. I no longer depended on others' recognition to feel worthy. I was the author of my own story, where even scars became part of my strength. When I later shared my story with a younger colleague torn between career and family, she asked me, "Do you regret choosing such a hard path?" I smiled, shaking my head. Regret? There were moments I wanted to give up, but those struggles showed me I was stronger than I ever thought. And because of them, today I can stand here, not just with a new title, but with a heart that finally knows how to love itself the right way. Alicia's journey is proof that recognition may come late, but what truly matters is never losing faith in yourself. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell so you won't miss the next inspiring journey.